The Buhari's administration has rolled out a number of initiatives to cushion the socio-economic impact of the virus across sectors and business segments, including the youth. But as the World Bank Country Director, Shubham Chaudhuri, told Arise News last Friday, there are concerns about how far-reaching those interventions are among Nigerians and the sectors. Joining me now from our Abuja studios is Celestine Okeke, the lead partner at Sustainable, Entrepreneurship and Economic Development Initiatives, or CDI, based in Abuja. Good evening, Celestine, and welcome to the program.
Good evening, Boason. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. It's good to have you. Let's have this two-part conversation in terms of the issue of transparency and accountability. And the World Bank and the IMF commended the Buhari's administration for rising to the occasion at the peak of the pandemic by putting out various initiatives and interventions, as it were, some in cash, some in kind, as it were. But the issue of accountability and transparency in these interventions are beginning to rear its head. What are the issues or experiences that you can see on the ground?
Okay, thank you, Boason. Good evening once again. I think the key and fundamental issue that is on the ground is that the agency managing the body of the intervention under whether it's COVID-19 or MSME Survivor Fund and the rest, has found a way to hide under a provision under the FOI Act that exempts it from providing information on people who are receiving social and financial assistance from government. So what you have is a continuous trend right from 2015, where the NISP office, that is Social Intervention Program Office, does not publish information on the beneficiaries, does not tell how it spends the funds it gets, and is not willing to share such information with members of the public or with civil society organizations. As a matter of fact, at I think May, June 2019, we had the cross-session of the National Assembly, both the Senate and the House of Rep, demanding for such information. And Miriam Uwais did say openly that the FOI Act does not allow the Management Office to publish such information. And in the absence of such information being in the public place, it becomes difficult to tell to what extent these funds are transparently used or to what extent there's accountability in the entire system and process. Let me end by citing one example for you here. In the first phase of the UWIN program, we had of 500,000 people engaged under the UWIN program, because it's not unemployment, it's merely an engagement. But in reality, the first phase of it, which was meant to have 300,000 beneficiaries, had 275,000 beneficiaries in reality. But we kept hearing 500,000, 500,000, 500,000. And it becomes a real challenge where we cannot tell with all certainty what is happening with such funds. We can't tell to what extent there's accountability and transparency in the management of these funds, and that is the biggest challenge we have.
In terms of this transparency and accountability, is it wide across what we're talking about here, or is it just related to these initiatives at some levels, as it were?
It's wide across. Let me date back, not a COVID-19 intervention, date back from 2013, 2014. I keep talking about the CBN 220 billion MSME intervention fund. Till date, we still can't tell the beneficiary. We still can't tell who got the funds. Though we have the former governor of Plateau State, Donald Jang, being tried by EFCC for diverting the 2 billion the state government got. So it's a historical challenge with most of the funds and interventions launched by government. So it's not limited to COVID-19 interventions. It's limited to the entire body of programs around government-sponsored intervention for MSMEs. And then also, if you stroll to NISA has a microfinance bank. My organization once wrote NISA, and we were asking NISA some key questions that came out of an interaction we had with farmers in Kano State, where farmers said they had to pull out of the NISA intervention, which is Anchor Borrowers program, because the agreement they had prior to the approval was not followed through. And then NISA writes back to their lawyer to tell you, look, they can't issue such information because the funds they're managing are not public funds. They took it as a debenture from government. So it's not limited to or restricted to the COVID-19 intervention fund. It's something that has been recurring over a long period of time.
So when you look at the issues at the federal level, at the state levels as well, I'm sure, through some of what your organization, Advocacy CEDI, does, you've had interactions at state levels as well, down across sectors.
Okay, so at the state level, it is a little bit more complicated at the state levels, because on the one hand, you have state governments. I think basically states like Ondo State, Lagos State, and some other states openly telling you they don't think the FOI Act, which is the Freedom of Information Act, whether it applies to them or not. As a matter of fact, Ondo State government had gone to court to appeal a judgment that a civil society organization got asking it to share information. So state governments are a little bit more closed in terms of whether they are even willing to have discussions with you. At the federal level, you can still have the NISP office come out and share, call for interactions, have conversation with CSOs and private individuals. But at the state levels, not even in Lagos State, for instance, not even in the FCT are they willing to share any information with you. And then when you have this level of secrecy around government-sponsored intervention, it begins to call to question the true intention in terms of who are to benefit from the intervention and to what extent they benefit from this intervention. Now, as a matter of fact, well, when we ask for information around how the Empower program and other programs that the NISP will be run, nobody shared any information. And now the 500,000 that were supposed that were engaged in the first and second phase of the program have been disengaged. And if you go online every day, especially on Twitter, you will find them, the past beneficiaries disengaged, asking for exit plan, asking for what next would happen to them. And it's because these programs were run in such a way that you can't even tell what the program is, what the plans are, what will happen to the beneficiary at the end of the day. So it's a big challenge. It's at the federal and at the state level. But at the state level, it is more dire, it is more serious, it is more of a big concern as it's against the federal level.
Okay, the statement released today by the World Bank says that the Fiscal Transparency, Accountability and Sustainability Program is being supported by additional $750 million but based on the progress done so far. So we want to know more about this when we come back after the break. Stick around, Celestine Okeke. We'll continue this after the break, everyone. Let's continue this. Celestine, thank you very much for sticking around. Let's get this to the MSMEs and all of that. So my point here, where we stopped earlier, has to do with the transparency and accountability. So how do these issues really impact the MSMEs when we take it all the way down to the bottom of the pyramid?
Okay, so there's a report we published on March 2019, Stolen Dreams. The report chronicles how government interventions is negated by corruption. And from the little research we did on that report, I co-authored it with Matthew Page. We saw that over $100 billion has been lost to such corruption. Now, let me give you an example of how this corruption affects MSMEs in the agri sector. Let me be specific a bit to the agri sector. Sometimes in July 2020, this year, we have the National Agricultural Seed Council, is a government agency meant to regulate the seed sector in Nigeria. Now, the council went and confiscated fake and substandard seed stored in the warehouse of the FCT. FCT is the Federal Capital Territory Administration warehouse. So what happened was that FCT has, over the last 2-3 years, formed this habit of buying substandard and fake seed and giving to smallholder farmers in the FCT, such that in 2018 planting season, farmers recorded near zero germination rate for the maize seed they got from the FCT administration. And then you had the Agricultural Seed Council going in and confiscating fake and substandard seed from a government agency in the Federal Capital Territory. That is a form of corruption that affects MSMEs. Then in terms of the financial support for MSMEs, I've been saying this for a long time.
No, I was going to say that these were very serious allegations you mentioned here, Celestine, in terms of this fake and adulterated seedlings.
If you Google it up, you would find information. The information is available online. If you Google NACS confiscating fake seed from FCT Fadama warehouse, you will find it online. NACS had to do that because there have been complaints over a long period of time. So it's not something I'm saying for you to hear. It's something that is in the public space for anybody to Google up and see. So I had to draw that example to tell you that even in the FCT, where you have the federal agencies of government, you have your EFCC, your ICPC and the rest, where you would expect some level of holding back from government agencies and corrupting themselves on government intervention for MSMEs. It is a big problem in the FCT here. And if you go further down to, say, Jigawa State, for instance, you would find that the provisions meant for the state government to warehouse agricultural produce, the funds are barely, we can't account for the fund. We don't know what happens to the fund. And then you would find the state agricultural supply is company, Jasco, storing fertilizers and seed in the same pellet, in the same warehouse. And seeds are known as living organisms. If you put them in an unfriendly condition, they just die off. So these are the kind of corruption that MSMEs are faced with. If you come to financial interventions, you would hear a 200 billion intervention fund, a 100 billion intervention fund, but at the end of the day, who benefits from this fund? What is the application process like? Let's even come a little bit to a recent intervention, the National Microfinance Bank, your AGMIS loan, your MSME fund, and your household fund. People who apply do not get to know what is the application process, what stage they are in, and what next to do. You have to visit their office in Area 10 here, the post office here, to get the basic information you need to get. And then because the processes are not put up online, they are not efficient, they are not transparent. People are cutting corners to get the application process. If you go there, you will find all of these things happening. People apply, they can't even tell. You can't go, there's no place you would go online and find your application progress. If you go to the office, you spend 3, 4, 5 hours getting information. And when all of these things begin to happen, people feel a need to pay a little bribe to fasten and hasten the process for them. So the corruption in the MSME sector is a big challenge. And I keep saying this, Nigeria is not an oil economy. Nigeria is a small business economy. Small businesses contribute the highest to job creation. They do the highest for GDP and the rest. So we should pay more attention to corruption as it affects MSMEs. Go look at the case concerning Jonah Jang for the MSME 20 billion fund.
Celestine.
He's been prosecuted by AFCC, and the bankers.
Celestine, just a quick one. From what I was trying to say earlier, the World Bank is providing $750 million US support to Nigeria to enhance fiscal accountability and transparency in the public resource management. Do you think this is a welcome development? It's just been approved today by the World Bank?
No. There's a fund before whatever they are approving now. There's a SIFTA fund, State Fiscal Transparency Accountability Fund, managed by the Nigerian Governors Forum. They have a list of criteria state governments need to meet for them to access that fund. And from the last one that I have seen, it has little or nothing to do with small businesses. It's more around the internal generated revenue, how they manage it, how they manage the internal generated revenue agencies and the regs. So it's a welcome development, but then we need to see it trickle down to how it affects small businesses. And because if it will be managed by the Nigeria Governors Forum, and they are the ones who jointly determine the criteria with the World Bank, we need to have that process open for Nigerians to come in to say, look, if governors or government agencies will benefit from this fund, these are the criteria they need to meet. For instance, since we are concerned about the COVID intervention fund, MSME intervention fund, we would ask that the FY Act be re-amended to remove that clause that says that government should not release information on people who are receiving social and financial grants from government. That clause needs to go out, because we shouldn't have a law that exempts government from releasing information on people it is giving social and financial intervention.
Thank you so much. Celestine Okeke of Sustainable Entrepreneurship and Economic Development Initiative, CEEDI, live to us from our Abuja studios. Have a great evening, and thanks for speaking with us on some of the latest issues around government's fiscal accountability and transparency, in particular for the small and medium enterprises.